Hi, it's time for another Business Analysis Live. My name is Susan Moore. I'm the Community Engagement Manager here at IIBA.
And my name's Scott Bennett. I'm the Manager of Business Analysis here at the International Institute of Business Analysis. Thank you for joining us today. We're going to talk about business analysis skills for human resources.
Scott, we've talked a lot over these Business Analysis Live streams about the different kinds of roles that we can play and the different kinds of titles
Mhm.
that business analysis professionals have. And I was thinking back to my days back on the business side of things, and I work through a lot of mergers and acquisitions and transformations. And usually on those projects, I was also there with an HR professional, somebody from human resources. And it seemed like a lot of the kinds of questions that they were asking and some of the things that they were accountable for, they seemed an awful lot like the things that business analysis professionals were doing, but on the technology side of things. So, question, do you think human resources professionals, do they use business analysis skills?
I actually know the answer to that. Absolutely. And to help us with this topic today, we've actually got a guest with us. I'd like to introduce you to Kris Tierney. Kris is with HRPA, the Human Resources Professionals Association. And we're going to talk through this today about business analysis and human resources. So we're going to cover this off from a few different angles. A lot of our audience are business analysis professionals. So this will give you insight into this domain that we're talking about business analysis, or sorry, human resources. But also, there are human resources professionals that are using business analysis skills. And Kris is here to help us today to understand that. So, welcome, Kris.
Oh, thank you so much, Susan, Scott, everyone joining us today. It's a real pleasure to be with you. I'm excited for this topic. This is going to be great.
I know
That's great.
we were getting ready as we were preparing for this broadcast today, and I was already getting excited about where this conversation was going because you really had me thinking. So I'm looking forward to being able to share some of that with our audience today.
Yeah.
And before we start, we are live today. So, if you're on the live stream, you can ask your questions and we will answer those as we go through. If you're listening to this as a podcast or on our YouTube channel, we encourage you to please give us a rating to let us know how you're enjoying those. So, Kris, I'm going to start with just a question about context. For those people that are not familiar with human resources in terms of a profession or what they do within an organization, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. Boy, that's a loaded question, Scott, I'll tell you, because I think the common perception of HR, human resources in our organizations is that we, hire, fire, retire employees and kind of don't do much else, or maybe we're the policymakers or the rule enforcers, where in fact, really good strategic HR truly partners with the business and brings value to the business. So if we look at it in the context of the pandemic, and we were talking before we went live about how, maybe we're done talking about the pandemic. We've talked about it so much, but really that's where HR was called forward in our organizations to solve a lot of problems,
Wow.
right from, operational, very tactical, people related issues, absenteeism, workplace illness, sick time, all the way up to how do we handle mass layoffs or mass workforce reductions, or how do we close an entire division as a result of the pandemic. And the HR professional in the organization is there for all of it. So HR really is involved in anything that touches that impacts the people in the organization. And not to jump to this kind of point, but when we think about the costs to run a business, and really people related costs and staffing related costs, if it's not the most expensive line item for an organization, it's in the top two or three.
Wow.
Organizations spend a lot of money on their people, and so HR really is there to maximize that investment for organizations and help drive that business forward. So there's a lot that HR does. I mean, I could use up our full 30 minutes just talking about that and probably more, but I'll stop there. So just hoping to provide some context, I guess, in terms of the value of HR.
That's super.
Yeah, it's I think you just illustrate the point that all of those initiatives that you were just talking about, because they do have a people impact, there is also process or technology. And so many times other kinds of business analysis professionals there are at the same table. But let's talk about part of the reason why we are talking with you today. There is a new certificate program that we are, and you might want to use the correct word. So in case I don't, but it is kind of a joint um, effort with HRPA, which is the organization that's Human Resources Professionals Association. Awesome. And IIBA, and it is helping to get those HR professionals upskilled with business analysis skills. So let's talk about that program really quickly, because clearly IIBA also sees the need to help those professionals learn the skills of business analysis.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. And, I guess it was probably about 18 months ago, I was introduced to a few individuals at IIBA at the association there, and we started talking about these intersections between really good business analysis skills and methodologies and really good influential strategic HR. And we just went, man, there's a lot of overlap here. And then HRPA, we talk to our members quite a lot, and we ask them for feedback and input, and our members are telling us, hey, these are gaps in our skill set. These are areas. Oh, sorry, my dog barking in the background, of course. um, these are skills that, generally speaking, in HR practice are underdeveloped. And so that partnership really kind of galvanized very quickly for HRPA and IIBA. And it's like, how do we bring our two worlds together? And it was super easy, actually, to bring those two worlds together and build this new certificate program, which I'm so excited for. We have our first cohort, our first session running next month. And there's a lot of interest in it already, which just shows kind of HR professionals are hungry for this. And I would just say too, anecdotally at the HRPA, we like to say that better HR makes business better. And so when HR can do their jobs better from a business point of view, and really bringing some of these business analysis techniques and skills and tools and methodologies to the table, it just helps businesses do better. And isn't that what we're all here to do, right? Regardless if
That's
you're HR or BA or anything else.
I,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I sat in a little bit of the pilot session for that course, and the first day we did introductions and talked about, why we were there. Again, it's really, that course is for HR professionals, and I heard one or two folks say, I get really annoyed because the organization starts this change, and I'm the last person that they call, and I think, boy, has that been, how many times have I said that over the course of my career as a business analysis professional? So we do share the same kinds of concerns about, if you could get us to the table earlier, there are ways that we can help you strategically. We can help you with planning. We can help you think about perspectives that maybe you would not have thought as leaders. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Yeah,
important to have that seat at the table.
And let's talk about
absolutely.
that a little bit. So, in the business analysis space, there's a number of processes, techniques that we use to solve problems, analyze things. Can you give us a couple examples, Kris, of where business analysis has helped you or others you work with in your role?
Yeah, for sure. So, and I was describing briefly kind of the value of HR in our organizations, and what we've done. And I'll speak to the program a little bit here, but it's real life. It kind of relates to real life for HR professionals, and there are key HR areas of focus, I guess, or programs where I've found business analysis skills and tools and methodologies have really helped me advance my impact and my influence in my business. So things like workforce planning. So taking our business strategy, the organizational strategy, priorities, and objectives, and then layering on a really viable, sound, business minded work workforce strategy. So how are we going to staff our organization so that we can execute that business strategy? Those two really go hand in hand, but we can't build that workforce strategy without leveraging our data, understanding what the business needs, understanding the employee experience, building personas, knowing what's going on in the market. Like there's a lot of really core fundamental business analysis skills that we use in workforce planning. That's one example. Another example would be on the talent development side. So how do we advance the skills and capabilities of our existing workforce to meet our future needs? And really, I mean, really good strategic HR, and this is, if there's any HR people here with us today, they're going to maybe roll their eyes because they've heard this so many times, but really good strategic HR is getting the right people with the right skills in the right jobs at the right time. That's really what it comes down to.
Okay.
So, with that ultimate goal in mind, how are we using these business analysis skills and tools that are available to us? I mean, they're there. IIBA, we have the BABOK, we have all these amazing resources. Why is HR not leveraging this? So that was really kind of the impetus for this learning program, this certificate program. But those are areas that I've used in the past. And Susan, I also heard in the first day of the pilot cohort for the program, somebody said, I want to be able to speak the language of the business. And this is where I think
Okay.
business analysis can really help HR get beyond the feelings that we're known for and get into the facts of the business.
Yeah, that's probably one of those rumors, myths, and suspicions. Sometimes we talk about those here, and on the HR side, I do think sometimes you think, well, they're a bunch of folks that deal with feelings and emotions and all of that stuff, and that is clearly not the case. That really there is a need for data, but also it is important that HR professionals be able to speak to the employee experience.
Yep.
So there's techniques that you can learn that can help you to describe that employee experience in a way that leaders will be receptive to, because yeah, feelings get weird in the workplace, by the way.
Yeah, they make people uncomfortable, but you know what? It's a fact. I mean, yes, HR does operate in that feelings space. Listen, we're dealing with people in our organizations. We're emotional creatures, so there's going to be feelings, but we can really accelerate and amplify our impact in HR practice and strategic HR practice when we start using data and facts as well. And so it's finding the balance. So it's not an either or; it's a yes and.
Yeah, that's right. And this, I was just sharing a comment from Paul Kesh, who's listening today. Yes, human resources ERP plays a major role. Ooh, this was actually not the right one. Paul Cash, we'll come back to you because you said something else that was awesome. Here, this is the one. BA plays a major role in human resources, also in terms of payroll and management of employees. So that's Paul Cash's experience as well. Is yes, there is business analysis in all of these different domains that are
Yeah.
under the HR um, department, I
um,
guess.
Umbrella. Yeah, there's so many intersections, and I think the more we examine it, we'll be like, oh yeah, and it's there. Oh yeah, it's also there, and it's also there. I mean, we were talking about interview skills and interviewing skills for business analysis professionals,
Yeah.
and it's, well, doesn't HR do lots of interviews at for all different reasons in the organization? So even just being able to interview well and gather the information that you need out of the person or the people you're talking to. So many intersections in it.
Kris, I've got a question for you. So,
Yes.
looking at this from a business analysis professional perspective, um, we typically get brought in to help find solutions for things. In the human resources space, are a lot of the solutions that you use from a technology perspective cloud-based sort of solution packages, or are they custom made? You guys build this stuff out?
That's a great question. I think the answer is probably it depends. I think it's a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B,
Okay.
and I think good HR that really has a good handle on what's going on in the business. What is the business trying to solve for in terms of its people and culture practices or strategies? it's got to start there, because then you can find or bring forward at least the options to solve those problems. But you can't do that if you don't really understand what's going on in the business in the first place. So
Yep.
sometimes it is a cloud-based package. Sometimes it is something that's a little bit more bespoke, and it depends on what the organization, where they are, what they can afford, what the problem is that they're trying to solve. But getting to that solution is a parallel path
Right.
from just really understanding what's going on in the business, and what are we trying to solve for.
Perfect. That does sound like a very analytical answer. Thank you.
Oh, well, I'm glad I could help.
Um, so let's see. I've got here's another. This is from Diana. Diana says, I think a good point would be to consider that HR hears a lot about of issues and having that data. So thinking about human resources as maybe being on the forefront of hearing things from within the organization, and being able to surface those. I think that's an interesting perspective. So, because I think sometimes business analysis professionals also sometimes get information like this. What's, how can human resources professionals, what's the path for escalating these kinds of things within
Well,
an organization?
yeah, I mean, that's a great point that Diana makes, for sure, because I think, we hear it a lot in HR, but we also say it a lot, where there's a lot of I think that, or I feel that we should, a lot of kind of general or ambiguous language that's rooted in kind of those feelings again. It's 2023. I mean, the amount of data that we have available, whether you have a sophisticated HR information system, or a sophisticated technology, or you're using you're running out of spreadsheets, data is available. So using the data to back it up, and it goes back to that yes, and it's the feelings and the facts. So yes, we hear things, but then how do we tap into facts to
Right.
validate that, or really paint a more accurate picture of what's going on? So and there's lots of different ways that we gather those facts and collect that data. And again, I know I'm a bit of a broken record, but it's really what we're here to talk about. It's these multiple intersections and really good HR practice, and knowing the business, and using some of these tools and methodologies that we see in business analysis, and bringing them forward to solve people related problems, or to do some fact finding on the things that we're hearing going on in our organization. So hopefully that answers that question.
Yeah, I think that it does. And as you're talking, I am thinking about s- uh, some of the ways that business analysis professionals are deployed in organizations. And, we often talk about your business or your IT in this world. And so I think about, for those business analysis professionals working on the business side, a lot of times they're working in strategy and planning and things like that. And there's a path for your, as opposed to finding problems, you're usually seeking opportunities on that side of things. And on the IT side, you are probably tracking down issues, you're probably working through solutions. And I had not thought about HR professionals have similar, they work on both sides as well. It may not necessarily be the IT side, but there's still both of that. There's opportunity seeking versus problem solving. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Love
yeah,
that. Love that.
yeah. Let's see. Something else that really struck me this morning, and I want us to talk about that, because you were talking about the impact that the pandemic has had, honestly, on both of our roles in business analysis and in HR, and you had an interesting take on it, and I would love for you to share that.
Sure.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to, trademark it after our. No, I'm not. So I had a bit of an aha moment yesterday, and I was trying to kind of summarize the pandemic impact on our businesses, and really it's had such a major impact. And so I looked at it from a pre-pan or an early pandemic, mid-pandemic, and now we're in post-pandemic. And early pandemic, it was business interrupted. So our businesses were headed down a path, everything was going along fine, and then all of a sudden it was like, hit the brakes, we've got to do something else. So it was a massive interruption. in mid-pandemic, we stabilized. It was more of a stabilization. We're like, okay, things seem to be quiet right now. We're going to continue in this state. And now we're post-pandemic. This is really where it's business disruption. This is coming out of the pandemic looking, feeling, behaving differently than we were when we went in. So it was interruption, stabilization, or interrupted, stabilized, and now we're disrupted. And so when we look at how our businesses and our organizations are calling upon our BA people and our HR people, boy, are like I'm getting the tap on the shoulder, multiple times every day, as I'm sure BA professionals are getting as well, because it's okay. Well, what we used to do is not working anymore. And so, how do we solve now? How do we recover in a world disrupted for the future and build our business in a viable, sustainable way for the future? And again, solving those problems. And it's just, when we look at HR practice and people practices, I work in predominantly in knowledge-based organizations. I'm not in manufacturing or there's no kind of factory or anything like that. So the big disruptor right now is remote work. And so
Oh,
what do
yeah.
we do and how is that impacting? But there's massive impacts of just remote and hybrid work on commercial real estate, on our real estate line and our expenses. What are we paying for? How are we using it? Technology. What are our tech demands now that people are working more remotely or want more freedom or flexibility outside of the office? So anyway, it's getting into these disruptors and this disruption in a post-pandemic world that we really need to dig into. We need to understand the business beyond just the people that are there.
I think about even what's been in the news just this year alone with lots of layoffs. Here in the US, we've had a lot of aviation problems recently, in part because of staffing, reductions in staffing and in decisions that were made in that interruption phase, where now people are wanting to travel again. And now, there's not enough staff, there's not enough, the systems are antiquated and all of that. And every time I hear one of these stories, I think, as a business analysis professional, boy, those guys need BAs. But,
Yeah,
there's also other examples, especially when we're talking about layoffs or, a certain social media company where they've been cutting lots of staff.
yeah.
Clearly, there's also a need for HR professionals to be at that table and asking a lot of the same questions that we would ask about the business in order to assess, what is it, where do we want to go, where are we today, and what's the path forward. So a lot of really a lot of what we do, there is so much overlap. It's just we might focus on two different areas, um, or we might be sitting at the same table
I
focusing
would,
on the same area.
and then I wouldn't be surprised in a large organization that does have, a BA function and an HR function. I would not be surprised to see them at the same table working together to solve the same problems moving forward. And so, really, BA understanding the language of HR and HR understanding the language of the business is going to really enable that collaboration and that cooperation to solve problems for the business. So if you're a small but mighty HR team like what I have at the association at the HRPA, we kind of wear both hats. And a lot of HR professionals don't have a certified, a qualified business analyst there to support them. So how do
Yeah,
they, upskill themselves so that they can fill some of that capability gap for the benefit of their organization?
yeah.
Maybe
We've
we
got
can.
lots of comments coming in here. I
Yeah,
just want to
sure.
highlight one from Tracy. Tracy says, "You can't have a business without people, so people should be a focus," right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice comment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, there's no reason for processes or procedures or products or technology or any of that stuff if you don't have people there to run it. And to your point, that is where most companies make their biggest investment is in people. But people aren't widgets, so we've got to understand. we've got to understand what those skills are that we have in house and how to deploy them correctly in order to achieve the goals of the organization.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it's just making a lot of sense what you're
And
Yeah.
saying.
And
and
there's this concept of a three-legged stool for organizations.
oh yeah.
You've got people, you've got processes, and you've got technology.
Yep.
The stool won't stand up without one of those. So it's interesting as you're talking through this, Kris. Just I've worked all my career in an IT department. Just an IT department services the whole organization. And what you've just described to us is you're servicing the whole organization. So that
Mhm.
three-legged stool was a mental image that just popped up
I
as you were
love that.
talking through this.
Yeah.
Also, he's a woodworker.
Oh,
So he builds things, by the way.
he builds three-legged stools in
I
his
guess
workshop.
so.
What I was going to say though, Scott, is, and I think through my HR career, I've always had a real affinity to my colleagues in technology and in IT, because I feel like we kind of come from the same point of view in terms of
Yeah.
servicing and supporting our business. So there's always been a tight relationship that I've had with my IT friends. And I would say that three-legged stool, the seat of that stool is the organizational's culture as well. And so it kind
Ooh,
of
I like that.
touches everything. There you go. See, it touches all of those legs on that stool. And so that's where your strategic HR professional and your highly capable HR leader is going to kind of really bring their point of view and their perspective um, to bringing that all together.
Okay,
I
I've got a new shop project in mind.
Yeah,
Wow.
I so we will see the three-legged stool maybe what next time we have Chris on
2 weeks?
we'll roll
Perfect.
out the stool and maybe yeah. So there
Love
you
it.
go. Let's see. Yeah, we do have some questions here. Um, let's see. I am going to here. Let's take a look at this one. This is from Mary. As a BA, the bridge between the business and the technical, the perception of IT programs in HR is not accurate. How does business analysis, HR, and HRIT fit
Mhm.
together? I know we just talked about HR technology systems. How do those three things fit together? Do you think?
Yeah, I mean, much the same way that we've been talking, even just those intersections between BA, like business analysis, and HR, and of course, our technology really supports the execution of our people programs, and so it's that foundation upon which all of our people programs and how our people work and actually operate within our organization, and so there, again, it is this tight relationship. It is this kind of coexistence, codependence, I guess, between all of these different functions, and like what Scott was just saying, like IT, HR really kind of touches all areas of the business, and it's the same with IT, or whether it's HR, information systems, or HR technology specifically. That's going to be you, like our users are everyone in the organization to varying degrees. So even if you're implementing or upgrading your HR technology in the organization, and you have a separate kind of function or functional group in your organization that just focuses on your HR management system or your HR technology, um, man, that can have massive impacts on the efficiency of your organization from a business point of view. Where are your people spending their time? Where might they be better spending their time? So now you get your BA skills in there and start doing some fact finding, looking at the data. How much time are people spending on simple, functions within your HRIS, within your HR technology, and how do you make that better for the user? I mean, this is BA stuff, right? So
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I would also say too, from a BA point of view and a business analysis, it's looking at risks too.
Hmm.
And so from an HR point of view, it's understanding and analyzing risks associated with people related decisions as well,
Okay.
because it's not just about solving problems, but it's really understanding what's the risk landscape look like around our potential solutions on that problem. So again, the core BA skills and approaches can help bring that to the conversation as well.
Yeah.
And some of the stuff we've talked about here is more strategic. I want to give an example for our audience of something that is a very simple example of working with HR as a BA. So 3 weeks ago, our head of HR asked for some help from my team because they wanted to learn what staff wanted from learning and development. So I sat with her and worked through, okay, there's a couple of ways to approach this. We can put a survey out, which is a technique that we use in business analysis, but it will give us limited feedback. It'll just answer quantifiable things. Great for doing that. We could also run workshops, and we can have people together, have some dialogue, ask some questions. And so she chose, let's do some workshops. So I and my BA that works with me, Dregana, we each facilitated a workshop with 6 people, and our head of HR was there, and she was listening to the feedback from the questions that we had predetermined. So that was a way that business analysis skills were used to help define and quantify, to your point, around what's needed and understanding those needs, so she could then take that and find a solution that would work best for the organization.
Love it. What a great example. And I would say as well, using some of those BA techniques and methodologies within my organization right now, we're looking at our engagement survey results. And so we've got
Mhm.
the data from a survey, an anonymous survey, but now we need to kind of dig in a little bit deeper and really understand what the data is telling us. And so,
Hmm.
yeah, doing things like focus groups and staff workshops and it's taking like really fundamental BA methodologies and bringing them forward into an HR context. So, another example.
As you guys are telling these stories, I am thinking about maybe another conversation we've had, and I can't remember, Scott, if we've had this conversation here, but we were talking about centers of excellence and communities of practice. Actually, I think it was a webinar that we did. And typically, in those, we think about those are staffed and led by business analysis professionals. But, HR folks in those same organizations should also be part of those, because the work that that center of excellence is doing to help standardize the practice of business analysis in their organization would, first of all, having the HR staff there would help them to also standardize how they use business analysis in their work. But also, I think it adds a whole new flavor so there's a lot of contributions that HR professionals could make in that center of excellence or community of practice, whichever one that you've got.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
HR would bring, again, kind of the human element. And if you're looking at change management or change adoption, they can talk to you a little bit about, what's happened in the past or what's going on with the workforce today that might influence positively or negatively, adoption of a particular change or of a new system or whatever it is. So having that HR person certainly brings that to the conversation as well.
So, Chris, this partnership that we've got with IIBA and HRPA, the course that's out there, who is that course targeted for?
So it's really targeted toward HR professionals who are looking to level up their business acumen and their ability to support their business using proven business analysis techniques. So it's
Okay,
it's taking kind of the fundamentals from the BA domain and putting them into practice within the HR domain. So it really is directed at HR professionals, but we've built the program with expertise from BAs themselves, from IIBA itself as an association, so that we're getting the right kind of learning content and key takeaways from that program.
great. So, for those of you who are listening, if you're interested in this as an HR professional, or you can pass this along to HR professionals in your organization to advocate for business analysis, here's some information Connor has posted for us. Professional development at HRPA is where you can inquire about that.
Yeah, thank you. We're going through some talk about you know system upgrades and so on. We're going through a bit of an upgrade right now this week with our system. So you do have to email us if you're interested in the program, and we'll send you over information or even help you get registered. We'll kind of do it the old-fashioned way.
And then I think so there's the certificate that you get for that course, but then I think it also helps you to prepare for IIBA's ECBA exam. Do I understand that
Absolutely, yeah.
relationship?
I'm glad you mentioned that because it does provide, I think, 16 of the learning hours that you would need toward that ECBA designation that's awarded through the IIBA Association. And with your registration into the certificate program, you get a 1-year membership with IIBA. And then for a small additional fee, you can actually register for a bridge course, which will help you fulfill all of the learning requirements that you need before you can write the exam for that ECBA designation, which is really nice. So it's that bridge course is through e-learning. It's asynchronous, so it's self-directed. It's really well done. It kind of helps bring all of those pieces together and prepare you for that exam. So you can really kind of hit off two key elements to boost your resume, upgrade your LinkedIn profile, and just bring greater influence and impact in your organization in one fell swoop.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a great program, and I know we've had a couple of folks. So Connor and Asma have been making sure that they are letting people know about that program and also how to get more information. So so let's see. Do we have any other questions here? I did share this. I thought Anna's comment was good. Evidence-based HR, hooray! I think that's what just think about what companies can do with data about people these days. It's actually a little bit scary. So for sure, there are ways to be able to quantify the impact of humans or the impacts of things on the humans in the workplace. So there is
Yeah,
definitely data out there. So I think it is something that I think a lot of our leaders and organizations are expecting anybody that comes in front of them. They are expecting to see the data, but they also still want the storytelling. They want to make it real. So I think those are
absolutely.
very important things.
I
Yeah.
appreciate Ina's enthusiasm, and I actually know Ina. And Ina, it's wonderful to know that you're here joining us today. So thank you for that comment. Appreciate it.
You gotta love it when the friends show up.
Love it.
Sometimes my dad shows up, in the
Yeah.
feed,
Oh,
which is weird, but anyway.
well, if my dad's here, hi, Dad.
And if my dad is listening, hey, dad, thank you. Well, let's see. I I I don't see any more questions today. We've had lots of I tell you, there was a comment in here because some of the feedback that we were getting today was a little bit that we were going in technical directions. And I do think sometimes as business analysis professionals, we tend to gravitate towards the technology side of things. Maybe it's one last question for you, Kris. Do you find that kind of I don't know. Do you find that in HR professionals? Do you find some are more about the data and others are about the human behavior side of their work? Or
Yeah. Oh, for
yeah,
sure. For sure. I think, there is that, HR, we're the people. There is an element of truth to that, even though if it kind of, we go as HR professionals, we go, oh, but there is a truth to that because we truly do care about the human experience in our organizations. And that's likely what got a lot of us into the profession in the first place. And like I mentioned earlier, Susan, I think the HR professionals that are really leveling up, pardon I know that's another phrase that we hear all the time, but those that are leveling up now are bringing the feelings and the facts to the table. And like you said, it's using the data because that's the language of the business,
that's
but
right.
it's doing the storytelling as well. And it's really understanding how this is going to impact the humans in our organization. And it's bringing both together. So it's again, it's the yes and. So
That's right. Or it's the it depends also.
it depends was my
HR
favorite
professionals
answer.
probably say that a lot too.
Yeah, we love it. Love that one.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, Kris, I want to thank you for joining us today. We've learned so much about you and also about HR professionals, things that I hadn't considered. So
Been a
this
great
is great.
conversation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a great conversation, and thanks for giving our audience more information on that HR certificate program. I am sure you will be getting some emails. So, all righty. Well, we're going to wrap it up for today, but we'll be back in 2 weeks. And we are going to be talking about what is business analysis. And we've got another great guest for you, Laura Patton, who is part of our BA community. She's a thought leader. She's done training for years. So we're excited to have her. We'll be doing that on Wednesday, February. Oh my goodness. Actually, I think it might be March 1st, but we'll be here 10:30 a.m. Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, and we'll leave another one right here for you to help you in your business analysis career. If you haven't subscribed to the IIBA YouTube channel yet, you can click over here and click on the bell icon to get notified every time we publish a brand new video.